Hey friends, welcome to One Little Coder. You would have probably seen a lot of news that talked about AI generated content. AI created this blog post, but still humans believed it. AI created this tweet, a lot of articles like this. And thanks to OpenAI's GPT family of models, this AI content generation had completely taken a leap forward. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can take a GPT-2 model, the smallest GPT-2 model, and then fine tune it on something that you have got, the text file you have got, and then you can generate output, which is what we can call as AI generated output, if we should sound like media people. So the data set that I'm going to use is Indian food recipes. So my objective here is to create new recipe names from the existing recipe data set. So there are a few disclaimers, or I should say note. So I'm not going to exactly run a lot of code in this case, because running this code is expensive. I mean, when I say expensive, it's computational expensive and it takes a lot of time. So probably this video might have to run for an hour or something. But I would show you the steps that I have taken, and I would also link this notebook in the description. So you can check this notebook, fork it, you can edit it, and then you can run your own version, either with this dataset or any other text dataset. I will let you know. So let's get started without further ado. So the package that we are going to use is Minimaxer's aitextgen. So what is aitextgen? Aitextgen is kind of a wrapper around wrapper for you to create AI, or I should probably call it pre-trained models from these GPT family of models, text. So you can, another fact is you can either use the existing model and then create text, or you can download the existing model, fine tune it on your data and then create text, or you can even create your own model from scratch. So what we are going to see in this video is the second category, where we would download a pre-trained model and then we would use the existing text that we have got and then we would generate text. So thanks to Minimaxer for giving us this package. Minimaxer has got a sponsor link. So if you want to sponsor, please go ahead and then do it. Otherwise, please star the repository. It would mean a lot, and then give a shout out to the developer on Twitter or LinkedIn. Let's get started. This is the notebook that I'm going to show you, and you can either start from a fresh notebook on a fresh data set, or you can just copy my notebook and then start along if you want to copy. So the first thing that you should probably do is, if you open a Kaggle notebook and in your settings, it is the settings is, you don't see GPU as an accelerator. You should probably enable GPU. So right now you can see that I do not have a GPU. So what the first thing that I would do is I would go and go to my settings. I would enable GPU. So let me do that first. Enable GPU, turn on GPU. And if you do not know, Kaggle has got a 36 hours weekly limit, so unless until you don't cross it, so you're good. So once you enable GPU, it's a new machine, right? You've got a new machine allocated, so you have to probably do everything from scratch, and that's what we're going to do. So first let's load this pre-default code that Kaggle has given. It doesn't matter much, but it loads NumPy and pandas in case if we want later on we can use it. Probably I would start adding comments while we are discussing also. So anyone who looks at this notebook, it might help them. So after we have ran the first script, which is to indicate that the notebook has started, let's install the aitexgen package. It's as simple as a pip install aitexgen. Let me add a markdown and say install say install aitexgen. I think instead of adding markdown, I'll probably start adding comments. Maybe that seems to be the easiest way to do. Okay, so aitexgen is successfully installed. I should add a command, install the main package. Okay, that's done. Probably I should have used the argument q to avoid this. Okay, so now from aitexgen, import aitexgen. And if you want to know about the NVIDIA machine that you have got, the GPU that you have got as part of Kaggle. So you can do NVIDIA SMI to check it. So usually means all of us mostly would get the same machine. So in this case, which is Tesla P100. So if you get a different machine, there's an optimization that you can look at. Like luckily, if you get a powerful machine, then you can optimize. You can add an argument, so you can check the description, documentation of this package to see. But most likely, you would probably end up with the same machine like I've got. So once we do that, we have to download the model. So like I said before, so GPT-2 has got different varieties of models. One is around 100ish, second is around 200ish, and the third is around 500ish. To make it simpler, I'm going to show you the smallest one, which is 124 MBs. So you can see that it has started downloading. It would take a couple of time. While it is downloading, I would tell you what kind of pre-processing we are going to do, and we will run it. So first thing is we need to get the data. Let me quickly show you how the data looks like, so you can see like what is it that we are seeing. Okay, so this is how the data looks like. The column that we are interested in is the translated recipe name. So you can see it says masala Karela recipe, spicy tomato rice recipe, because the original name has got some Hindi characters in it. So it has got ragi semia upma recipe. So it has got the names in English. But you can also notice that most of these recipes have got recipe as a word. Maybe it doesn't make much sense to keep a recipe as a recipe. And the second thing I would say is that if you want to exclude recipe, then you've got the brackets, and also you would see that sometimes you would see the same recipe name repeating. So you can either say that I want only one part of it, or you can actually tokenize it and make it into two rows, so it becomes like two individual recipes. So yeah, so the column that we are interested in is translated recipe column, and we want to clean it up a little bit before we proceed further. I'm not doing a lot of cleaning. That's something that I should probably highlight it. But if you are going to like build a proper model, like if you're going to use it somewhere, please make sure that you actually clean it properly. So I'm reading the dataset inside. I want all the, like you could have seen that the recipe name is quite long. By default, pandas may not or notebook may not show the entire column. So I want the notebook not to, or pandas not to limit any width. So I'm saying none. And then the next thing is, you can see that I have I am replacing the bunch of things. Like I'm replacing recipe as a word. I'm replacing the open bracket. I'm replacing the close bracket. So at this point, you can see that I have kind of processed the data. And after I process the data, what I'm doing is I'm assigning it to a new data frame as a data frame. This is successfully ran. So you can see that all the models are downloaded, and it would have got saved as well. So if you go to the output, you would be able to see it. So let me run the next code, which is input data. Once we get the input data, then like I said, the next thing is, as I said, I think I'll add comments, but I'm not doing it. So maybe I'll do it after this recording. So when you look at the notebook, you would actually see the comments with, and then replace the string and assign it to a new data frame. Okay, I don't need this data, so I can close it. Just to indicate you another thing, so I said like we can use a separator, and then we can create new rows with the second half of the recipe name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a function called explode to split the cell, a single cell, into two cells based on the separator. So that's what I'm doing here. So and when I did this, I found some leading space. So I'm stripping out the leading white space. And finally, I'm I'm writing everything, but before that, probably I should show you the shape, that the number of rows would have got increased. So you can see from 6,000 rows, like 6,800 recipes. Now we have got around like 8,700 recipes. So that's an extension that we have got. And the next thing is we need to save this text file somewhere. So I'm saying that okay, save it as input text cleaned with the column name. The column name that I want is var1, but I don't want column name, which is header or index, to be saved. The next thing is we are going to start fine tuning. Couple of things to note. So this first thing is you need to specify either a tokenized object, like if you're doing tokenization here, you can specify the tokenized object here, data. If not, if you're using an external file, like a file in your local machine, like in my case, I've saved this file into my Kaggle environment, so I want to load it from there. So then you have to give the file name. Then next is you need to specify from cache, and you need to specify. Okay, so if you're using a CSV file, then you need to make line by line is equal to true, and number of steps that you want to take. So I wanted it to be like slightly like faster, so I started with 1,000 step. But if you, again, like I said, if you want to do it for a decent, if you wanted to do a decent job, then you need to increase the number of steps. Like ideally you can do 2,000 or 5,000, something like that. And how frequent you want to see the log, and generate the text, like sample text, generate and save every 500. It's like a checkpoint. At every 500th iteration, the model would get saved, whether you want to save it in Google Drive, your like learning rate, whether you have got FP16 machine, so the basic information. Once you do that, like after that, you would start seeing that the model would start getting saved in a directory. Let me just even start it. I think for simplicity, I can start with 500 steps. So while we are doing this video, we might be able to actually see the result. Let me do 500 steps. I think 500 even would take a decent time. So let's see, like it has started. So you can see that the GPU memory that we have got is around 7 GB that we are using it. You can see the loss. So like the more number of iterations that you would do, the loss would come down. But I'm doing like literally 500, so which is going to output in a terrible model, but at least it will help us in seeing the result. So you can see that it has produced something, but if you actually look at it, most of these outputs would be already there in the input text, because it's not actually generating text. But I wanted to just show you like what's happening. So while it is running, let me explain you what we are going to do next, and then we'll come back and then see this. So the next step is, you can see that there will be a folder here in your output, where there will be a folder created called trained model, and then within the trained model there will be a PyTorch. Okay, PyTorch underscore model bin, a model file would get generated, and then a config file would get generated. So from this point onwards, so you just fine-tuned, so the model is saved. You don't have to create a model hereafter. I think probably for somebody who is not very familiar with the machine learning process, this might sound different, but I think if you're familiar with the process, you might already know this fact that you train once, you infer multiple times. So what we are going to do in this case is now load the pre-trained model, or I should say the fine-tuned model that we pre-trained on the 124 MB GPT-2 model, and now use this fine-tuned model for further generation if you want to generate anything more. So at this point, you can see it, the execution is successfully completed. At every iteration, like at every 100th iteration, it would have probably displayed something. If you want to see the sample text while okay, it didn't complete, my apologies, it's in the 400th iteration. So at every iteration you could see it starting to mix up things, like create new things, but I wouldn't still say that like it is actually a great thing, because 500 iteration would not result in anything, because it is just the same text that you would see. Probably it would replicate the same text. So yeah, I'm not expecting this result to be very meaningful, because I just wanted it for the video. So you can see 500 steps reached, and then it has saved the model. So you can see because we have said that like save the model at 500 steps, so it has done that thing. And you can also see there are some mixing. It started doing, like there was a separate dish called mango tiramisu, and then it started adding it with fresh herb butter. uh, like again, like two things like peanut chutney in Hindi. So it has started mixing up things, but like you cannot expect anything more than this from 500 iterations. So having said that thing, let's now run it. Now when you run this thing, you get a new instance of AI, and like as the object name. With this object name AI, you can say you can like play around with this, and then you can start generating text. So like I said, I didn't clean my data enough, so you can see like things like these things appear. So like if I increase the number of n size, so I would get like more data. So you can see like 1 2 3, and so something is like just curry and paneer and green peas paratha, healthy cottage cheese scramble with muesli and honey. I'm not sure how many of these things are already part of the original data set, but the formula and logic is same. If you want to do it for any data set, even for this data set, only thing is you have to improve your parameters, and you need to have that patience, GPU, and data for you to actually train some good model, which would probably deceive human beings that you actually came up with this thing. But again, this was supposed to be a fun project, and it was really fun for me in doing it. So you can do this for news headlines creation. You can do this for let's say chemical compounds creation. You can do this for a lot of things. It'd be definitely interesting to see what kind of mix you get. But yeah, so what we have seen in this video, and again, like you can go back to the documentation of aitextgen, where you would also see how to upload this model to Hugging Face library. If you want to upload this model to Hugging Face Model Hub, so you can still do that. There is a separate link. I'll link that in the description. So basically what we have seen in this video is we started with a Kaggle Notebook. We learned we learned about the package aitexgen, and then we downloaded a 124 MB GPT-2 model. We fine-tuned it with we did some text processing with the input text data. We fine-tuned it with the Indian recipe dataset, and then finally we try to create own recipe names, or in the marketing terms I should say AI generated recipe terms, recipes, Indian recipes, and this is the result that we have got. So far, like if you have seen, this process would have taken probably like 15 minutes something. Like I didn't edit this video, so the entire duration of this video is what it has taken, and that's quite amazing, right? You can actually build something close to a state of the art model, at least let's say a poor man's AI model, that is not like super awesome, but you can still do it in like a span of 15 minutes with a free GPU and a data set that somebody has collected and given it to you. I think this is really, really awesome. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, I hope this video was helpful to you in creating your own AI generated, like in quotes, AI generated something. Could be headlines, could be, like I said, chemical compound names, could be food recipes, food cuisine that you like, could be anything, like any text data that you have got. Like you can even like play with place, like let's say Cinderella, or some other author's play, or something like that. So all these things would mean like you basically at the end of the day you generate a coherent text that makes sense for human beings to read, but it is not actually part of the original data set. And another disclaimer that I would like to add, so these models were trained on a huge corpus, so it might have bias, it might have something against a marginalized community, which is quite obvious, and right now because we do not have any other option, I'm just using this model. But there are works being done to debias it, and I'm really interested in that space as well. So if you have any content, please let me know. For that, I'll explore it further in that. So thank you so much for listening to me. Let's hope that you can create your AI generated content, and see you next in the next video. Until that, stay safe.